You giving me that vibe that you want me to take you home. Tryna calculate the time it takes to get you up and close.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Q.
It's too crowded in this party. Let's go somewhere comfortable.
Welcome to Q's Lounge. I'm your host, Brother Q. And we're going to get inside your comfort zone.
In your comfort zone. In your comfort zone. Up in the whip, we riding. Right hand on your thigh while I'm driving. Smoking the sides out, we vibing.
Welcome to Q's Lounge. If this is your first time to Q's Lounge, you're welcome. Q's Lounge is our space to vibe and chill. And sometimes you got to find that comfort zone so you can vibe and chill.
It's too crowded in this party. Let's go somewhere comfortable.
Shout out to everybody that is watching this in replay. Shout out to everybody on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter who's watching this live. We appreciate you. You know, Q's Lounge is such a vibe, y'all. I'm kind of feeling myself with that one.
Did you see what I done? Came with my best friend, left with the husband.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your host, Brother Q, and I just want to welcome everybody to the show. It's been a little while. Want to make sure that our music and everything is straight. And I'm gonna go ahead and just give you the intro. So yeah, just want to welcome everybody to Q's Lounge. I'm your host, Q. It's been a little while since we've gotten together. Our last show that we had, we talked about tough love. You know what I mean? And you know, tough love was definitely, you know, something that was near and dear to my heart because I talk about love all the time. And, you know, society tells us these things about love and wants us to believe, you know, in fairy tales, you know, and I wanted to keep it real because on Q's Lounge, what do? We talk about all matters of the heart. And what's really important is making sure that we keep it real, you know? And so nothing about love is easy, but the work in it and the reward of, you know, of staying resilient, you know, in your relationships and just your aspiration for love is rewarding. And so I just wanted to encourage you guys all with tough love. And that also just marked our, you know, the 20th episode. Q's Lounge has been on, you know, been able to stream on Spotify, Apple, and all the different platforms and YouTube for 2 years. But tonight we're still, you know, everything is a matter of the heart on Q's Lounge. You know what I mean? If this is your first time, Q's Lounge is our space to vibe and chill. And we talk about all things matters of the heart. And it is my belief that everything is a matter of the heart. And so today we're going to get into some things that I think we need to get into. And we have a special guest today. And my special guest is LaTosha Wilson. I want to welcome LaTosha into the lounge. LaTosha, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing well, Brother Q. How you doing?
You know, I'm doing real good because I got you on the lounge. And I've been trying to get you on the lounge for a minute. And I'm just glad that you were here with me. And I'm going to be able to share, you know, share you. I've been telling you, I'm looking forward to having you on the platform to be able to share, actually to kind of brag, because I got, you know, this conversation, you know, I talk about, you know, friendships, and I think that we should brag about our, you know, our close, good relationships that we have. Forgive me, I'm want to make sure that we're all set here on the audio piece. Let's see here.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate being here. And, you know, hello to all your, you know, listeners out there here in the lounge. So I'm excited because, you know, I've been wanting to come and hang out with you and have one of our conversations actually in front of people, because, you know, we can talk and we have good conversations that lead to some great places. And so now to be able to just, you know, do this is amazing. So thank you so much for having me. I appreciate being here.
Well, I am so glad to, I'm so glad to have you and to, And to everybody who is, is tuning in, I think that, friendships are important. And, and one of the things that LaTosha and I have talked about is that, LaTosha is a sister to me. And she is a friend. And I think it's important, I've talked about this in other shows, for men and women to be able to be friends, in a very holistic way. And so I'm just going to give a little background to LaTosha. I'm still having a little sound thing here, but I wanted to give a little background to LaTosha because, give me a second here. Something is just tripping me out. Well, anyway, so LaTosha is a wife and a mom of three. Three beautiful girls. She is a computer geek turned fitness instructor turned entrepreneur. She began teaching fitness in 2005, and since then she has created and co-created some of the most sought after premier lifestyles and fitness brands, including Partio Fitness, Hip Hop Hits, and Fitness for Followers. LaTosha's motto is to learn, do, and teach, and she is a growth mindset. She has a growth mindset, so she is always seeking the latest and greatest when it comes to living a healthier lifestyle, and she has implemented the things that she has learned into her own life. She goes out and shares it with others. And so, LaTosha, I just want to thank you again. You've just been really a really good sister, and so I'm just looking forward to having this conversation today to share my relationship with you, with everyone else. And so, LaTosha, how do you do it all? You a mom and you got all these different things you got going on. How do you do it all?
What does God say? I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, right? And
That's
so
right.
when I lean on him, when I feel like I'm growing tired, growing weary, I remember like he gave it to me, so he knew I can handle it. And so I just try to push through. So, but I'm also aware when I need to rest. So I want to throw that little caveat out there as well, making sure that I rest when I need to.
I mean, is that something that you do diligently? Is it something that like it just happens? I mean, how do you go about making sure you have rest?
You know, it's funny because it was just like most people want to, as a fitness instructor, everyone's like, how do you lose weight and things like that. And as I started to like dive deeper and, become a personal trainer and really just understand how the body works and also how God designed our body, I realized that rest is very, very important. It's important to go out there and get your sleep. And so I started to prioritize that over trying to stay up late at night and do that one more thing. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do what I can, and then I'm going to lay it down, and then I'll take care of the rest and start renewed in the morning. And so prioritizing rest has been crucial. Sometimes just taking a little quick nap during the middle of the day. Sometimes, you feel like you're just tired, but you when I say push through, it's just like there's times where you have to push through, but then there's times it's like just go sit down. And sometimes I'll just sit there and I'll just close my eyes. And if I fall asleep, I fall asleep. And if I don't, I don't. But it's really just to allow my brain to just slow down.
Yeah. Now that's powerful. So, today, LaTosha, you have a lot of experience, a lot of things. I know you're a reader. It says that you're a geek, but don't let this sister fool you guys. She is definitely somebody who is, she got dancing skills. Like I don't give people credit for dancing, but when this sister danced, I turned my head. When the first time I seen you dance, I was like, see, I don't like to dance with everybody, but when I saw her dance, I was like, see, she's from my village, my tribe. You know what I mean? Because not everybody can feel the music like that, and so you are not a geek like whatever the world says by geek. You are a learner. I know that you love learning, and so I'm hoping that we can tap into some of the life experiences you have and the insight that you have. And I know that, like I said, you study, and then also just you're also a woman of God. And so today's conversation, I wanted us to just kind of just get into it, is about narratives. And the question is, to everyone, who is the author of your narrative? And LaTosha, I'll just, let you open up and What does that mean to you? A narrative and an author of the narrative. What does that mean to you?
Wow. Well, at first it used to be me, my own thoughts, that was the author. And I realized when I talk to myself and I listen to myself, it doesn't go very well. Because everything that I tend to say tends to be negative, right? And so I first had to work on my speech, work on my thought patterns and everything like that. And I started to dive deeper into the Bible. And so, as you said, my faith is really important to me. And when I read the Bible, it reads like a fitness manual to me, right? And so my favorite life verse is, Romans 12:1 and 2. And it just talks about renewing your mind, because if you think differently, you will become different. That's where the transformation happens. And so I didn't need to have my own mind. I needed to have the mind of Christ. And so when I remove me, less of me, and allow more of him, to fill my thoughts, and it's a battle, right? Because
Yeah.
knowing which, is that of God or is it just me, kind of say things. And I always have to go back and, go back to his word to like say, okay, this is what he says. This is what is true. And, I have like daily verses that I recite to myself. It's like, talk about affirmations and things like that. And so I really think about trying to keep everything positive. And the more positive, even if it's something bad going on, it's like, how can I state this in such a way that's positive? My best friend and co-creator of Hip Hop Hits, I'm always, messing with her. And I'm like, you don't have to do this or you don't need to do this. I'm like, you get to do this. And then she says it like sarcastically, like, yeah, I get to go to work, kind of thing. But, but that really is my motto. I really try to make things sound positive and keep it upbeat.
I'm wondering about all that. Sounds good.
Where you go.
I'm here. So all that sounds good. And one of the questions I have is, how does one kind of like differ? How does the narrative and just clearing your mind and like dreams and goals, right? Like how do you like separate or define them and make them distinctly different? Because dreams and goals sometimes are things that you have yet to reach. But then like you're talking about clearing your mind and there's these things that you're using the word to help you with your thoughts. But what happens to your dreams and goals, and how important are your dreams and goals in terms of like your outlook on life?
It's very important. It's like you kind of have to, what it boils down to is faith, right? You have to be able to see it before you are able to actually physically touch it. It's kind of like I like getting ready to go on a vacation. Sometimes I think just preparing for the vacation is just about as exciting as going on the vacation, because it's like, you're counting down, you're getting your clothes ready, you're figuring out like where you're going to go. It's like all of these things that you're doing prior to getting there. And you have this expectation that it is going to go well. And that could be a double-edged sword sometimes, because sometimes people put too much on it instead of like getting in the moment and being present. But it's being able to see that prior, those dreams and those goals, to keep you kind of moving forward, to give you something to kind of shoot for, to aim for, to keep you moving.
And then, the author, right? You said it before, it was your own thoughts. And now, you are, you have this relationship with the Father, right? I think about I think about narratives, right? And one of the things that I wanted us to kind of talk about and maybe encourage one person is the fact that, a lot of us are living, from a place of like, a story about themselves that, something that has happened, in their life. And everything almost comes through, like every thought, every new relationship, every new beginning almost starts in that tragic place. you know?
Mhm.
And so, there we've all have dark times and dark seasons, you know what I mean? And I just wonder, like, how have you, and what is your encouragement, for a person to come out of that, from that dark place, who's like routinely in a space where they're always looking kind of from the lens of, these things that have happened, heartbreak, and heartbreak, happens in different ways. It's not always a romantic thing. Like, you can lose, a loved one that was a matriarch or patriarch to your family, right? How do you encourage someone, and how do you, for you, you know, how can you transition out of that space of like always routinely going to the dark place as like the beginning of your story? Like, when you have to renew your mind every day, like, are you renewing your mind from the same place every day?
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll just, share my story, with about my mom, and, and actually how I created, I co-created Hip Hop Hits. And so my mom was diagnosed with cancer back in 2013, and it seemed like it was just out of the blue. She didn't drink, she didn't smoke, she had some weight issues and things like that. But for the most part, it was just like, it just blindsided us. And when she passed, she was diagnosed in 2013. She ended up passing in 2014. December 27th, 2014. And when she passed, I started to look at everything differently, right? I remember riding behind the hearse, and as we were getting off the freeway, I just thought to myself, like, it's true. You can't take it with you. All these things that we work so hard for, that we're chasing, or just whatnot, those material things, or to look a certain way, all of those things, you can't take it with you in the end. And so I say that to say, but there's some good things that are left behind, right? What legacy are you leaving behind? And so when my mom got sick, I needed someone that was going to be able to take care or sub my classes. And so I couldn't find anyone that was going to be able to sub my classes. And so my best friend, she was able to do that. She taught boot camp classes at the time, and I taught another fitness format. And so what we did was we took 30 minutes of my dance cardio and put it with 30 minutes of her boot camp. And then that's how Hip Hop Hits was born. Basically, HIT stands for high intensity interval training. And this is where, something that was a tragic situation, but we brought it together and made something beautiful, which was Hip Hop Hits. People started liking the format, and because they liked the format, we kept teaching it. And then now when I go out and I teach, or when I teach the class, I tell people, I say, I don't have my mom here, but you're here for a reason, because I would not know you if it weren't for my mom. Right. And so I'm grateful, and I feel like you're supposed to be here, and you obviously must be special. That's what I let them know. I'm like, you obviously must be special. And so I say that to say that God can use all things, no matter how bad it seems, to, turn it into a good situation, to make it positive, right? Kind of thing. I was just watching, I think it was like America's Got Talent. And there was, this guy, young black guy. He had no legs, and basically he just had his arms. And he went through like this America, Ninja Warrior course, and he's going on the monkey bars, he's jumping and doing all these things. He's climbing up a pole, and he climbs all the way to the top, and he gets there, and he jumps up and he starts playing the drums. And he's playing the drums after he just did this hard thing. And I'm like, dang. And he said he just wanted to let people know that you just need to be limitless. Like, you don't need to put any kind of ceiling on yourself. And I'm like, he doesn't have any legs. Like, like no excuse. Like, I'm like, dang, I'm like, I can't even just like swing on the monkey bars. Like, it just, if you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. And so you can use your situation or that dark place as a reason to be depressed or upset, or, or just sad, or you can use that as, you know what, I've come through the valley, I've come through and made it to the other side. And so that's the I guess tragedy is like, don't let it define you and don't let it be a negative, right? Don't let it be a negative.
So Sister Latasha, you just said something right now that should scare the world. So those of you that have been through trauma and been through pain, I think you just said that you can take that trauma and drama, pain, and actually use it. Like, I think about some of my worst days, and there's some times where I'm like, because I've been through, because I've been through, like, I know I can do this. You know what I mean? Because I went through, and just remembering, like, when you didn't have the peace of mind that you have, you know what I mean? When you didn't have the job that you have, and just being able to think back and know that story. But then the conviction is that I am never going back there again. Never going back there again. And within the faith, it's just, it's almost like you are honoring, you're honoring the grace, the opportunity today. And I think sometimes it's, the part of this conversation, sometimes we get stuck. You can get stuck in that space, and you're unable to get, what you said you did makes sense. But how you got there to actually get to a place to do what you said that you were doing, because the emotions and everything else are pulling in, and on our mind, right? Something renewal is pulling on your body. You don't want to move, right?
Yeah.
Like, you got all these things that are holding you back. And so, to me, it sounds like if you've been through some stuff that, and I know me, there's some conversations and there's some situations that you do not want to get in my way. I'm telling you right now. LaTosha, can you feel me?
Yeah.
There's some situations, because you've been through, like, you do not want to get in my way. And I think about, and I'm gonna pass the mic back to you, but I'm thinking about, David. When they go and get David to go get Goliath, and I always use this phrase because David sounds really proud. He says, "Who is this uncircumcised Philistine?" Right? And everybody who doesn't know the story, David's little, Goliath is real big, and everybody that Goliath was going up against, he was taking them down. They were fearful because he was so big and such a great warrior.
Yeah.
But you know what? David was like, I've been fighting bears. You know what I mean? I've been in these streets, I've been through some things. And so, like, his, where he's been was like this empowering thing. So I got that from what you said, that one way, of authoring our narrative is to be inspired, by it as well.
Yeah. And to go along those lines, it's like, I love sitting down with people and talking to people. I'm like, why do you do what you do? And usually people who've been through something, like, when people have been through something, because it's like, they call it like the smoke of battle on them. Like, you walk different, you talk different, and it's just like, you don't have time for the nonsense, right? It's like, there's just this, I don't even know, this unwritten thing that you just kind of know. And so I love asking people, like, what is your story? And when people have been through something and then they overcome, it's the most powerful thing. And, and that's where I think you see that drive. One of the things I used to ask myself, I'm like, why do people wait until someone, passes before they start, donating to cancer research and blah, 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 or doing all of that other stuff? And I was like, oh, okay. So number one, I better watch how I ask for things, right? Because now I see why and how and everything like that, because it's like, now I have a purpose and a reason, because I've been now affected by it, right? And, and I try to be helpful, instead of needing to be affected by something, try to be proactive about it before God teaches me a lesson, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense at all. But I want to also go back to something that you said earlier about being stuck. That word stuck has been coming up a lot. And so um, instead of thinking that you're stuck, maybe you're stationed somewhere,
Mm.
right? And you have to be stationed there because there's a lesson to learn, right? You can't move on to that next level. And every time I feel like I'm going through the same thing, it's that, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Well, if you're doing that same thing over and over again, maybe there's something that you haven't learned, and that's why you're going through that. Mark and I, my husband Mark, we like to call it the Groundhog's Day effect, right? You have to continue to go through that same day over and over and over again until you learn that lesson, that key lesson that you need to learn before you can move on, to the next.
Yeah, one of the things sometimes, to assess, right? You have to assess yourself. I think about like a narrative is the story, right? Like whose story is this? And and are you living your mom's story, right? Are you living your dad's story? Like, are you living the story of what society says about your race, ethnicity, right? Like, who is the author? And I think about the fact that the assessment sometimes is thinking about is what I'm believing and what I'm living, is it true, right? Like, and where's the line between the story that's in your head and like the truth? And people ask, what is true, right? And that's what we should be trying to uncover every single day, and in everything as well, is what is the truth, and this is why, again, like, I appreciate our relationship, because there's this ironing sharpen iron and challenging, and you just did it a moment ago about the station, and it would have been easy to just carry forward. But I think just even thinking about that, like, sometimes you got to be, you have to be in that season for a minute so you can get what you need to get, right? But thinking about, is what you're living true? Is what you want something true? And it's sometimes I think that we can stay in a certain place because we just really haven't had that real like self-assessment. Look in the mirror, right, at yourself, and am I honest with myself? Am I loving my family, with everything? Am I am I actually, I want to get to the fitness piece because, I got a fitness guru with me, but am I really eating as healthy as I can? Right. I'm in the financial. So I'm like, am I keeping a budget? Am I communicating the best I can in my relationship, like to my husband, to my children? Right. Am I a peaceable person? And I think that when we do the self-assessment, I think it starts to open up, what, the narrative that we might be in. And sometimes we're not whole. We're not what we think we are. You know what I mean? Like, you've authorized something that is not even real. Something's not even real.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just interesting. It's like taking that honest look in the mirror. That is, I think, key. And when I don't take that honest look, I feel like God places people in my life, and when they do something, I'm like, Lord, you're showing me that because that's what I do. Because of course, what's the first thing that wants to come out? You want to judge people, right? I mean, I want to judge people like, oh, why'd you do that? Well, if I'm judging them, am I judging them because I see something in them? Like, I have to recognize what it is, right? I have to know what it is to even be judging what it is, right? Kind of thing. And so, am I judging them because it's something that I see in myself? And so I feel like sometimes God is just like, okay, you're not taking an honest look, but I want to show you this. So if I get someone that doesn't like respond to me right away, I'm like, ooh, who didn't I respond to right away? Or if someone just like whatever, I always look and say, did I do something like this? Did I treat someone else like this? And is God showing me how it feels because of something that I did? And I could say probably like 80% of the time, 80-90% of the time, there's some truth to that, where I just have to like go do a self-assessment and go, okay, I see that in that person, because I think that is a characteristic in me and that needs to change.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the best, you know, um, I think remedy to kind of like finding out, what I always tell my son, you always got to look at yourself first. You know,
Mm.
we this world, a lot of people are judging one another on different things, but when you really, really, really look close at yourself, I love the comments when people say, "I'm a good person. I don't go to church," right? And this is not like, I'm not like trying to push church on anybody, but people will say, "I'm a good person," and I wonder, like, what do they think is good? And I know the scripture says that nobody is good. Only person is good is God, right? And so I consider myself a good person. Like a lot of people like me, they think I'm a friendly guy and all those things. But then when I really, really like, look at ourselves and go, am I really good? And I'm like, nah, I still got work to do. You know what I mean? Like, and it's and one, that honesty, even though it's true, you know what I mean? Like this, I am Brother Q, like what you see is what you get. You know what I mean? Like some people think I'm a different person and I'm not. LaTosha is here. She can tell you it's just live on the microphone. That's all that it is. But when you have that conversation with yourself though, and you're like, can be honest, and you're like, you know what? I don't have it all together. Right. I don't have it all together. And when you can do that, internalize that, there's a level of humility that gives you a chance to grow, right? There's a chance for you to like learn and to actually, go on a different trajectory because you were just honest with yourself. Like the story that you believe about yourself, your entitlement, United
Yes.
States of America, um, and this younger generation, let me say that too, this entitlement, right? Um, you have put yourself into this, into this space that you really don't belong. You have not achieved yet, that you haven't not accomplished, And so to me, there's that look at ourselves that will help us with our, I think it helps us even be better in our relationships too. When we can be honest about ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yep. Honesty, that self-reflection is definitely key. You're talking about fitness, right? You kind of like segue into that. But I remember I had great self-esteem. I mean, awesome self-esteem. And so when I looked in the mirror, the person that I was health-wise, not just because I was bigger, so don't misunderstand me, but health-wise, I thought I was more healthier than what I actually was. So it took a picture back in 2010 that I saw of myself, and I'm like, is that what I look like? And I was just like, wow. And then I had to go and like start checking some things. I mean, I stepped on the scale, and when I stepped on the scale, I was like 4 pounds away from my pregnancy weight.
Can I
Only
just
4.
say, can I just, I seen the picture. You was thick. Y'all see LaTosha was thick. You know what I mean? LaTosha from Texas, y'all. She was thick. She was on that barbecue.
Alabama, look, Alabama.
Alabama.
Yes,
Yeah, get it
yes,
right. She was on that
yes, yes.
southern, you know what I mean? And but that's a real talk question, right? Like you had to have that real talk with yourself.
Yeah.
Amen.
And I was a fitness instructor. So it wasn't like I wasn't working out and things like that. And so, I think you were talking about earlier, people like, like, oh, I go to church and I'm a good person. It's kind of like, oh yeah, I go to the gym. I mean, I was teaching fitness, and I looked at, and I could still move, I could drop it, I could do all those things. I mean, so I was just like, no, I got it. But there was just something that in that picture that like kind of, it broke the glass, and I really saw myself for where I really was. And it was just not just overweight, but I was unhealthy. And I realized that my words and my actions were not lining up. I didn't feel good about going in front of everyone and saying, "Oh, you should do this and you should do that and you should do these things and things like that." If you're like you're living your best life just where you are, that's your message. But that wasn't my message. And so something was not um they weren't lining up. And so I had to change. I didn't want to be a hypocrite. And so I was like, "Okay, what am I doing?" And I had to learn, about my body. I had to learn what was going on, and they take that honest look in the mirror, right? And it's just like, and so when you start to learn how to take an honest look in the mirror, you have grace for other people, right? Because like I am flawed and I don't have it all right, and so um, taking that time with my kids, taking that time with my husband, and like all of those things, it has helped me with my relationships so that I don't jump the gun. It's just like, no, I could be the person that's wrong, and it's okay. If it's me, but it's definitely taking that honest look in the mirror.
Can you do me a favor?
Hmm.
Let's say that person has lost weight, right?
Hmm.
Like, and you lost weight. I mean, you see LaTosha, she looked like a fitness instructor. Um, but the person who lost weight, like, how do they get their mind right to where they could live without the fear? You know what I mean? Like, because I think sometimes like we will stumble and continue to like, you can have your weight go up and down, up and down, up and down, right? Because your mind is not healthy. And I'm just thinking about the person who has lost the weight, but their whole objective now, they almost have to be obsessed because of that picture you just talked about,
Yeah, right.
And how do you
And
encourage that person?
well, and it's two different things, because if you believe that you were a healthy person and you started to change your habits and started to live like a healthy person, then you become healthy, right? That goes back to renewing your mind. You're going to do those things. And so that means, maybe it's getting your rest, drinking more water, moving your body. It's not about being perfect, but it's just, and what health means to each person is completely different. There's some people, they don't have to work out, and that's completely fine. There are people who can eat pizza and they don't gain any weight. That's completely fine. Health is different for each and every person. So it's not a prescribed one size fits all, kind of thing. But then there are, like in my mom's case, she had the surgery to lose, weight, gastric bypass. And knowing what I know now, I wished I would have been the trainer that I am now, and I could have helped her back then. Um, I see people do that surgery, but they haven't changed their mentality about the food and things like that. And so they'll obsess kind of like that, like, they'll get down and they'll be okay, but they haven't learned the habits to get them there, to keep them there. And so what happens is they end up gaining the weight back, right? And then there are the ones that again, it's the mindset. If you don't have the right mindset about weight loss, and it's not even about weight loss, that's why I said it's about being healthy. If you have the mindset that I'm going to be healthy, then you're not going to obsess over your weight. The weight will naturally come. Because I like to use Serena Williams as an example. She's not a thin girl, but you can't say that she's not healthy, right?
Mhm.
So it's not about the weight. I mean, I don't know what her weight is, but she is all muscle. So again, you have to understand, what does it mean to be healthy for you versus, just trying to look at a number on the scale, or just trying to look like a different body type to, be obsessed about that.
Yeah, we're gonna go. I got a couple more things I want to talk about because one of the things you talked about, when you are honest with yourself, it helps you to be more relatable, right?
Mhm.
More relatable, even more likable, and in some cases, more lovable. Because this is Q's Lounge, and I'm gonna get to the heart of everything, right? Um, I want to speak to influences, right? the world influences us in so many different ways. They tell you, and to the women more than men, and women, forgive me if this feels like I'm out of place for saying it, but there's a lot of things that the world is telling us what is fit, what is sexy, what is trending, right? And I just think also too, like relationships, right?
Mhm.
Um, how do relationships influence your narrative? How can they, and do they? And like, and I even think, you could be, a person could be married into someone who is influencing their narrative, and it's
Mhm.
not necessarily, in a way to uplift you, and to, and to, to encourage you. So how do you see influence impacting your narrative?
I mean, it comes from all different sources, right? So for me personally, like for instance, makeup. I may have on a little lipstick today, but typically, like, there's no foundation, there's nothing that I wear. And I have to credit that to my dad because when I was younger, he always told me that I looked beautiful without makeup. And he said I didn't need it. And so to this day, I rarely wear, I mean, if I wear it, it's only on occasions. But other than that, I don't wear makeup. And so he was a big influence in my life, right? Um, my husband, he doesn't really care for a ton of makeup. That's not something that is just like, and truthfully, if you talk to most guys, they'll tell you they don't actually like all that makeup, right? They actually really don't. And so I don't know who said that, the lashes of this and that, and if that's your thing, that's your thing. But we say that and say that, but then do guys go after women who look like that as well? So that's a whole nother, kind of, story. So, women may feel that they have to live up to the standard of what guys are looking for. But most of the time, if you're finding someone who is true and authentic and that is looking for true love, right? And which is okay. So one of my shows that I like to watch is The Love is Blind,
Mhm.
right? I
That's
watched that. And what I really like about that show, is the fact that they take all of the superficial, all that stuff away, and you really got to be able to talk to somebody. You got to really be able to open up, or you're just gonna be sitting there in the room just listening to somebody breathe,
Mhm.
kind of thing. And when you take all those things away, what are you left with, right? You take all those things away, what are you left with? And if you can't connect on that level, I guess, um, like at that point, it doesn't matter because you'll see, like sometimes you'll see certain couples, at least for me, again, me judging, I'll see certain couples and I'm like, oh, how does that work? But you know what? It does work because there's just something about their hearts that connected, right? It wasn't the external and what the world sees. It is something that is just the heart connection that came about, and I think that is that's the key. So we have a lot of influences and the world says this and and all of those things, but you know, if you want to do what the world does, great. But if you're looking for someone who is going to connect with you on that heart level, then you got to be willing to wear your heart on your sleeve. And sometimes that might hurt, but at the same time, it's just like I want somebody to like me for the bare bones and not the made up version, right? Because I can always get dolled up, but it's like I want you to like me at my baseline, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we talked about, skin deep. You know, you don't want to love that skin deep. I don't want a friendship that's skin deep. I don't want a partnership in business that's skin deep, right?
Hmm.
The influences I think are really important because they affect. You have to have a good network, business network. You got to have people around you who are out there trying to get it. You know what I mean? And then also, for those of us who walk by faith, or you claim to walk by faith. You know what I mean? Like you claim to believe, but like, where is it at in your life? You know what I mean? Who are the people that you engage? Who do you connect with? You know what I
Hmm.
mean? That are walking by faith. That's
Yeah.
tough. You know what I mean? You wanna buy a home, right? But you're not doing anything You know what I mean? You have no one in your network to be able to help you, guide you, in the process of dealing with your credit or whatever else it might be, right? So what LaTosha, I heard you say is like, having what you say and what you do need to kind of aligned, right? So that you're walking in truth. And so my conversation about, the narrative and the truth, it's like, where the truth is and what your story is sometimes are separated. You know what I mean? And that's why we have to self-assess. And I think there's also this moment of like truth. What we're hoping to get to is that our story, right?
Yeah.
What we said we were going to do, what we
Mhm.
intended to do is matching up of what
Yes.
we are to do. And this even goes deeper when you start looking at purpose as well.
Mhm.
Um, I want to just land on this last one because I think, who is the author of your narrative, right? The story when you woke up this morning and before you go to bed tonight. Who is the author? And are you, are you the author? Are you, have you invited God into your life to help you in your life? But there's also these things that are dictating our life and our choices, that we need to release. There are things that are happening that there are things that have happened in our life. There are things that are happening currently in our life. There are things that we are doing. You talked about habits, right?
Mhm.
And the habits and the lifestyle, and you talked about the way that we think, that need to be released. Can you just reflect on and share encouragement, how those the negative things, the things that are not good for us, how they can be dictating, our life experience and how you approach it yourself?
Mhm. Well, first off, you got to be able to identify it, right? That goes back to that self-assessment. That goes back to looking in the mirror. What habits do you have that are they serving you or they're not serving you, right? Are they taking you away? Are they moving you closer towards your goals or taking you away from your goals? All of those things. And so you have to, number one, know where you are, know where you want to go, and then identify the habits that are getting you closer to it or taking you further away. So whether that's fitness, if you say, all right, I'm overweight now, but I want to be healthier and I want to lose weight because, my purpose, my why is that I want to be healthier and I, want my blood pressure to go down or, all of those things, though, that's one thing. And then now if I eat this cake, is that going to move me closer to that habit or further away from that habit? Right. Or I mean, from that goal. And then say you have a financial goal, you want to go on a trip and you want to save up money. All right, you need to know where you are, where do you want to go, how much is it going to cost? Now, if I'm going to go shopping and buy this dress, is that going to take me closer to that goal or move me further away from that goal? And so it's really those things. You can't just say like, stop doing this and do this. It's not that simple. You really just need to identify where you are, where do you want to go, and then what habits are taking you closer to that and what are things that are taking you further away from that, and just stop doing those and start doing more of the things that are moving you closer to it.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, LaTosha, I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you for coming into the Q's Lounge. We welcome you back. Hopefully, you'll come back another time. Before we let you go, I want to let the people know how can they get in contact with you. So, can you share with us how folks can get in contact with you?
Yes, right now, the brand that we are that I'm working on is Hip Hop Hits, and again, that was made because of my mom. And HIT stands for High Intensity Interval Training, and this is where we take dance, cardio, and boot camp training. We put it together and we do it all to hip hop music, and we have a lot of fun. So you can find me on IG at Hip Hop Hits.
Awesome, awesome. Do you got anything that's coming soon? Anything else? Because I know LaTosha doesn't just do one thing. She's a mother, a wife. I mean, I'm like, I don't know how many jobs and businesses you own, but is there anything that we need to be looking out for that's coming soon that you're doing?
I would like to plug that. I'm working with a team through the Black Advisory Business Council through the Washington County Chamber of Commerce, and we are doing an event for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. and it's going to be on Tuesday, October 17th, and it's going to be at Mount Olivet West Campus on Kenneman Road, and it's going to be from 4:30, I think 4:30 until 6:30. And we are going to bring awareness, and it's called Thriving Together for a Healthier Tomorrow. And we chose that name because cancer is more than just breast cancer, and it affects so many people, different, backgrounds and everything like that. And so we're going to have a conversation circle about people who are caregivers, how a cancer diagnosis might affect, children, moms, men, all of those things. And so we're going to have genetics testing. We're going to have the mobile mammogram van that's going to be out there. There's going to be a lot of cool resources. So that's something that I'm super, super passionate about, is helping people learn about their body so they can be proactive about their health and not have to get that diagnosis like my mom did. And so that there are resources out there to help us just make sure that we are living a healthier life and that we can be around for the long haul to do the work that the Lord has called us to do.
Amen. Amen. Well, again, LaTosha, you are my sister. I appreciate you for coming on the Q's Lounge. I hope that it felt like a place that was safe, that was a vibe. You know what I mean? Right. That's what Q's Lounge is. And I look forward to having our parking lot conversation once again here on the Q's Lounge. And I pray that, that what was shared would be received. And so again, just want to thank you for being on the show, and we hope to see you again soon. Take care. Take care.